The Supreme Court has affirmed the financial autonomy of Nigeria's 774 local governments. In its judgment on Thursday, a 7-member panel of the court unanimously upheld the suit brought by the federal government to strengthen the independence of local governments in the country. A member of the panel, Justice Emmanuel Agim, who delivered the court's lead judgment, held that the local governments across the country should, from Thursday, receive their allocations directly from the Accountant General of the Federation. Joining us now on the show is Liborous Oshoma, a lawyer and human rights activist. Always good to see you, Mr. Oshoma. Good, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Liborous is simply about judicial review. And in question is Section 162 of the Constitution and the ruling of their lordships, the 7-man panel led by Justice Emmanuel Agim. Your take.
Yeah, but before I go to Section 162, please permit me to go to the 4th schedule, because a lot of people don't understand what this had led us to. 4th schedule, talks about the functions of the local government. And if I read these functions to you, there is no state in Nigeria where local government today is performing these functions, because they have completely been taken over by the state government. The main functions of a local government council are as follows: the consideration and making of recommendation for a state commission on economic planning or any similar body. The economic development of the state, particularly as far as the area of authority of the council or the state are affected, and proposal made by the said commission body. Collection of rates, radio and TV licenses, establishment and maintenance of cemetery, burial ground and homes for the destitute or infirm. Licensing of bicycle trucks other than mechanically propelled trucks, canoe, wheelbarrow, and carts. Establishment, maintenance, and regulation of slaughter slabs, slaughter houses, markets, motor parks, and public conveniences. Construction and maintenance of roads, streets, lightning, drain, highway, parks, garden, and open spaces. Naming of roads and numbering of houses. Provision of and maintenance of public conveniences. Registration of births, deaths, and marriages. Assessment of privately owned houses or tenement rate, and the list goes on. And then you now come to Section 162 that you referred to. A lot of misconception also, if you look at Section 162, subsection 6, 7, and 8, particularly, because it says, subsection 6 says, each state shall maintain special account to be called state joint local government account, into which shall be paid all allocation to the local government council of the state from the federation account and from the government of the state. There's this misconception that that account is for the state government also to draw funds from. There is nowhere in subsection 6, 7, and 8 where the state was authorized to draw funds from that account. What you have in subsection 7, it says, each state shall pay to the local government council in its area of jurisdiction such proportion of its total revenue on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the National Assembly. Subsection 8 says, the amount standing to the credit of local government council of state shall be distributed among the local government council of that state on such term and in such manner as may be prescribed by the House of Assembly of the state. So if you look at this section, it does not authorize the state to draw funds. I've listened to a lot of former local government chairmen speak on the issues of local government revenue. When I went to the function, you find out that even salaries for local government have completely been taken over by states. States pay salaries for local government officials. They collect tenement rates, they number streets, they collected signages, even registration. And at the end of the day, they create what they call a joint account. And they now say, oh, we're trying to manage the funds, so we'll share to the states. But in actual sense,
the Supreme Court says now payments should be made directly to the local councils. Now, does the ruling by the Supreme Court, does it repeal that section of Section 162 that you have quoted?
No.
Because the state joint account will still exist. And the states say what they charge is administrative charges.
Administrative charges for collection of funds by virtue of Section 163.
Bank charges.
And so that's where I think this is a step in the right direction. But until we also amend Section 197, to ensure that the election into the local government is conducted by a body different from state's electoral body, we will just be dancing around the issues, because at the end of the day, the state governors I call them emperors, are still going to appoint people into this local government, and then the revenue comes to you, and they tell you,
God help you, don't bring it back.
You will be removed from office the next day. They look for opportunities to remove you. So that's where the challenge is. It's a step in the right direction. It will encourage people to now begin to look into the local government revenue the same way people look at state revenue. We don't criticize local state electoral bodies the way we criticize or talk about INEC. If we channel half of the energy that we use to, talk about INEC to some of these state electoral bodies, we'll probably, not have what we have, the selection processes that we have at the state level. And then we'll be able to say truly with this judgment that, well, we'll be able to get a lot from it. But with what this judgment has simply done is to state the law as it is. But implementation, because in Nigeria, our problems are not lack of laws. Even this law as it is, if we are to implement it, ordinarily you won't have this problem. But implementation is the key problem here. And, before the program, we're talking about corruption and incompetence. You find out that two of them go together. And so at the local government level, what happens because of corruption, you don't bring incompetent people. And, at the end of the day, these same people will tell you, the local government have been reduced to nothing. They are really not doing anything. After all, what are they doing? So don't bother yourself. And while in the actual sense, what has happened is that they completely take away the functions of the local government, ensure that the people that are there are people who are there at the mercy of the governor, who will see, who will kowtow to the governor. And once that guy is there, he dare not complain, because at least when you're on the table, you don't complain when you are eating. So that's the challenge.
Appointments and the people who are there, because another issue that was mentioned by His Justice was caretaker committees and just upholding a previous ruling by the Supreme Court saying that they were not legal. But we still see that happen across the country. We have, even in River State, there's a caretaker committee currently. So there are many states like that. And 21. The governor justified it by saying other states also have caretaker. How do we deal with these issues? Because like you rightly said, it's not the absence of legislation or law. It is the implementation. What is the guarantee that now this will be obeyed if the previous one wasn't? How do we enforce? How do we implement? So that we strengthen our local government.
I think at some point we will have to, use some strong means to implement some of these laws. Because it takes us back to the Obasanjo issue. If you look at Section 7, the last time I was here, that was the same thing we discussed. Section 7, the system of a local government by democratically elected local government council is under this constitutional guarantee. And so there is no room for ad hoc, mayor, caretaker, or whatever name. So if funds that are meant for local government should be sent directly to the local government, I also think that funds meant for local government should not be given to persons who are not democratically elected at the local government level. Once we do that, and then we'll still have challenges, like I said, Section 197. But at least we'll have semblance, even if they are pretending to conduct election, we'll have semblance of democratic process at the local government level. Unlike where governors just sit down, wait for tenure to expire, or in some cases, sack the entire local government, create a law by the State House of Assembly, who have become an appendage of the state executive, create a law, enact a law, and then just sack an entire local, democratically elected local government, and then he put in place caretaker committee under the guise of, we are not able to conduct elections now. Section 135 of the Constitution only talks about where it is impracticable to conduct election. And that's even at the national level, not even at the state level. And where it is practicable, and Nigeria is at war. There is no state in Nigeria where we do not conduct national elections. So I see no reason why we can't conduct local government election in all of these states, even if at least let's pretend to have an election. Delta State is conducting election tomorrow, Saturday. Rivers State has said they would conduct theirs on in October. And so many other states.
So between now and October, it should be that committee that would be.
Yes, let's push these states to have democratically elected local government officials at the state level. Otherwise, let the federal government keep these funds at a pool, an account, an interest-in account, until these states are able to conduct local government elections.
And you see, as regards this, and that's why Dr. Bati was very precise today when he was even saying, the president, you too, you were part of this.
Yes.
All this while. And why I was asking, but anyway, I was making a defense of the president that, any day wait person wake up 9 be morning, so I know tongue in trick.
Even the Attorney General was on the other side.
The Attorney General was on the other side. In fact, there's nobody, no governor that has ever been, all the states in this country at some point were on the other side in this country. No politician, everybody had exploited, as long as you were a former governor in this country, you had exploited this local government system one way or the other. But my question will be, apart from even that 197, because we need to look at that 197, because that's the point of conversation here. Apart from ensuring that we look at that 197, that is INEC that conducts the local government election, because that has always been the case. Even when we returned to democracy in 99, local government elections were the first to be conducted in December 98. Yes. In fact, Abacha, if my memory serves me, I think they had, when they were doing the Great Abacha rally before that time, they had even done the local government polls at that period.
Yes.
So how can we go back to that? That's number one. Secondly, we should now also look at this high-handedness of the governors. Some people are saying that all the monies, I think Sarah was saying that all the monies that they've taken before, can they reverse that? Can they pay all of that money back? That's one argument of Sarah. That might not be possible. The third point would be, there's another case that is going on that I saw now on statutory deductions by the federal government that Oyo and some other states are now pushing and are saying they're taking the federal government to Supreme Court as regards that. I mean, can you throw more light on all of that?
You see, first and foremost, on the issue of conducting elections at the local government level, whether we like it or not, that's we're being pushed to a position where, even though we're clamoring for fiscal federalism, restructuring Nigeria, we find that the states, the governors, those who are superintending, governance at the various state level, had shown clearly, to be incapable of conducting elections, credible elections at those levels. We're happy today that the Attorney General, who is the Federal Attorney General today, is on this other side, which also shows that lawyers can argue either side.
Yes.
When he was, in private practice, he was one of those that supported, this continuous system where the state government would continue to superintend finances meant for local government. But today, credit to him, and like you said, when person wake up, not being money. So we also now need to take it a notch further to look at, yes, we complain about INEC conducting elections, and all that we see during the national election. But to a very large extent, it's still far better than what we see at the local government level. What you see at the local government level is not something you can describe as an election, but a selection process that in some cases, some persons are still waiting for materials to arrive. Other persons are being sworn in as local government officials, council chairmen, and councillors, that now it has become so bad that we don't even reckon with who becomes councillor in our various, council areas. All we look out for is who is the chairman. Until we need to look at a situation where the elections also will be very important for us. And then on the area of deductions, if you look at section 1163 of the same constitution, it talks about allocation of revenue and net off of deductions from cost of funds. Yeah. Cost of funds. But also there are areas where some of these states had collected money from the federal government. Not just grant, but borrow. They were bailouts to some of these states. Yeah. So we need to look at the holistic. There are a lot of issues that we need to look at. If we had a situation where these revenues are the ones, the local government are the ones collecting the revenues and pay taxes to the state, and the state in turn pay taxes to the federal, then we would have all of these issues of netting off, deductions. But you, sorry, quickly, Doc.
Yeah.
But you have a behemoth called the federal government that collects 53% or 52% of the entire revenue, where the states and the local government shares collectively about 40-something%. That's where you are having this challenge. What is the job of the federal government to be collecting 52% of the revenue?
Sarah saying he must pay them back all this money. What do you say about that?
It is a practical impossibility, but that does not stop us from going after the money.
Okay, before we go, we're trying to wrap up. We have just about a minute. Now, you said Section 197 will need to be amended. Are there other sections that should be amended? Because what I said earlier, that the ruling by the Supreme Court raises a number of questions. Should we also amend Section 162?
Yes.
Should we just abrogate the joint account?
Yeah.
And then Section 2 of the Constitution does not mention local governments. It says we're a federation and states and federal capital territory. Should that Section 2 of the Constitution also be amended? Because it's only in Section 7 that we first heard of local government.
There are, like I had said, the Constitution entirely, apart from Section 7 and the 4th schedule, giving functions. Local government, just the way functions of State House of Assemblies are spelled out, these functions of the governors are spelled out, functions of the president are spelled out. There is no functions spelled out for the local government in the Constitution, the local government council, the local government chairman, and all that is left within the purview of the State House of Assembly to make laws for, which is why we have the crisis we had in Rivers State. So all of these sections need to be amended to ensure that the duties of the local government is clearly spelled out if we believe that this is the government that is closest to the people. Otherwise, what's the business of federal government sharing palliative? That should be the business of local government if we had a local government that is properly structured and defined by the Constitution.
Okay, thank you very much, Liborous Oshoma. Always a delight to have you here.